So, because you already know what time it is. Na, 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 na. Animated horror stories. Na, na, na. Animated horror stories. Doom, doom, doom. Doom, doom, doom. Pa, pa, pa. Have you missed me? I missed you. I have. Just because I wasn't here doesn't mean I wasn't thinking about you. I appreciate my one cousin that reached out and was like, girl, where you at? And is you coming back? Because those are the questions. Like, it's stories out there to be watched, and your ass ain't watching. Can't say that exactly, but said something along those lines. So let's get up into it, guys. Where are we going? We're going to our good cousin, SSG Animation House. Why? Because he don't play over here. I seen this one right here. 2 true horror stories with real footage. And that's where I'm like, yeah, let's get up in here. Let's get up in here. Ooh, the following stories were inspired by loosely based on the actual events. All right.
My name is Rodrigo, and I have a story to tell you.
Okay, Rodrigo.
Don't expect ghosts, paranormal events, or heroes. This is a normal story, and these stories are much scarier because it can happen to any of you.
That do be the scariest.
It all started when I signed up on Tinder, looking to meet someone to date. Rio de Janeiro is a really big and central place, so you can be on Tinder for quite a while without getting bored.
Mm-hmm.
After swiping left and right for hours, I came across Sophia's profile. I can't describe to you how cute she was, although maybe too cute. I liked her, thinking there was no chance she would notice me, and to my surprise...
I'm sorry. Y'all please go grab your blunts, grab your blankets, grab your bottles of water. And I know there's another B I'm missing. Blankets, bottles of water, blunts. Was there 3 B's or 4? Whatever the 4th one is, y'all make sure you grab it. Don't be here without
it. There was a match. I talked to her, thinking that I was sure she would like everyone, but she hardly responded to messages, and to my delight, I was wrong again. We started talking almost immediately. She responded to all my messages very quickly and seemed interested in talking to me. Our conversations were great. We quickly realized that we had a lot in common. We talked about our hobbies, our favorite movies, and places we like to hang out.
So y'all think.
Everything seemed to be going great until she mentioned that she had just split up with her boyfriend. I decided not to pay too much attention to that, since she also mentioned that she had been only with him for a few months. We met at a bar a week after we started talking.
A few months is a long
Sophia
time
was even more beautiful in person. We had great chemistry right away and spent the whole night talking. I liked Sophia, and I felt like she liked me back. But sadly, this is not a love story. And after that night, strange things started to happen. I would get phone calls where I would only hear heavy breathing before they hung up. My car was vandalized twice in 1 week, with flat tires and broken windows. I started to feel like someone was watching me 24/7, but when I looked around, I saw no one.
You know who it is.
Someone was harassing me, and I didn't understand who it was or why.
I already know who it is. On my way
home from a date with Sophia.
You see, that's where it's like, if the signs are right there, the signs are right there. Like, I understand what you're saying. I'm sorry, I'm trying to just get my Monopoly Go. I'm just trying to get my daily gift. My bad. But like, you just met her. She told you that her and her ex-man was just together, and now all your shit getting broke up. It don't take a lot. It shouldn't take a lot for you. You should be, you shouldn't be that lost in the clouds. You just met up. All right?
My stalker got careless for a moment, and that's when I saw him. A tall, stocky man standing in the dark, barely visible under the streetlight.
You're a stalker.
I couldn't make out his features, but I knew he was looking at me. I mean, nothing guaranteed me that it wasn't a man who was simply in the moment and place, watching me for no particular reason. But I don't know how to explain it. I just knew. He was the one who had been stalking me. I rushed into my apartment and locked the door, my heart pounding. I kept thinking all night long. What if this man didn't make a mistake and let himself be seen intentionally? As if to back up my theory, the man was showing up more and more often. I would see him on the street when I went for my morning jog, in the supermarket while shopping, and even outside my work. I always kept my distance, but he was there watching me. Whenever I brought up the subject with Sophia, she downplayed it and avoided it. It all started to seem very strange to me. Why was she reacting like that?
Because
did she have something
that's
to
her
do with it?
man.
One
It
night as
could
I was
be.
walking home from dinner with friends, the man appeared again.
Y'all gonna
This
jump
time he
him?
didn't keep his distance. He approached me quickly, and before I could react,
He knocked
he
you?
punched me in the face and knocked me to
Oh!
the ground, stunned.
Y'all, why would you
None of my friends were able to reach in time. It all happened too fast.
were able to reach in time? Y'all was right. We synced ya. Don't lie to us. You see them trying to lie to us? Like they were all right there. Like we ain't see them all right there. Just lying. Why would they let some random person walk up on you? You ain't supposed to let nobody get that close to you. They just let Buddy all up in your fucking space.
Fast.
That's
As he was leaving,
insane.
I remember he said something. You shouldn't have messed with Sophia.
And
When I
that,
left the
like,
hospital
leave
a few
her.
hours later with a black eye, I immediately called Sophia.
And she gonna pretend like,
Resigned,
oh
she
my
agreed
god.
to meet me and talk about it. Just in case, my friend stayed too. Sophia didn't seem to mind.
What are they gonna do?
At
They
that
did
moment,
nothing the first
she
time.
told us that she was afraid that this man was her ex-boyfriend. But what had happened that night confirmed it. She had only
Well,
been
could it
with him
be?
a few months, but that was enough for her to realize that he was a psychopath. In that short time they were together, he threatened her, tried to hit her, and she even had to get a restraining order. At first, Sophia didn't want to tell me anything so as not to scare me, thinking that my stalker might get bored of me, or maybe it was someone else. But at this point, she knew she had to tell me. We all looked at each other in shock, but
He
it
only
made
told
sense.
you because he beat your ass.
The
up
man
in
had
the
been
street.
stalking me ever since I started dating Sophia. I decided to take drastic measures. I installed security cameras in my apartment and started carrying pepper.
Stop seeing her. She ain't the only person out there in the world. Don't put your. Why would you put your life in danger for her? You just met her. They was only together for 3 months. You only been together a couple weeks. Why is he playing with us like he just ain't tell us the story? You just met Shorty. She is not nobody for you to, keep getting your ass beat for. I ain't getting my
Pepper
ass
spray
beat
with
for
me at all
nobody.
times.
I
I
beat
made sure
ass.
not to go out alone at night and to keep in contact with my
But
friends and
that's
family
insane.
at all times. I also wanted to be close to Sophia, as she could potentially be another victim of this psycho.
He ain't beating her.
Since
He's
that
beating
day, I
you.
must admit that I saw him much less. His appearances were more and more sporadic, but I knew I didn't have to let my guard down. He could show up at any time or any place. And so he did. The day I saw him again, I was on my motorcycle, since he had destroyed my car a few days before. I was driving down the road to go see my parents when I realized that something was happening behind me. A white car was following me almost as soon as I left my house. At first, I thought it might be a coincidence, but when a violent psychopath is chasing you, you know you can't leave anything to chance. After several blocks, I could already confirm that I was being followed. I made several illogical turns as he was still following me. I stopped at the police station for a few seconds, and the car stopped following me. But when I left and took the road, it reappeared. And this is where the worst part of the nightmare began. The man's behavior was much more aggressive than usual. His car was close to my bike. Too close. It was then that I realized that he wasn't just following me. He wanted to hurt me.
Like,
After he tried to lock
we
me
do
up with a
that.
pickup truck, I decided I was going to take matters into my own hands. I let his car pass me and kicked his mirror just to make him understand that I was not going to be harassed by him. Not
he
only did
beat
this not
your
help,
ass
but it
the
made
last
him more
time.
aggressive. After that situation, the car just kept going faster and faster.
Cause
trying to
now
lock
he's
me
like,
up against
oh
the
yeah,
trucks on
I'm
the
about
road,
to kill you.
getting in front of me and preventing me from passing and taking advantage of any situation to throw me off the bike. Every time the man overtook me, I could see his face. He was furious. His eyes were almost lost, and I could even see some foam coming out of his mouth. This man was obsessed with hurting me. I decided to take the most logical decision and turned the bike around, going in the other lane.
You better go to the damn. I would have drove to the damn.
Risking a collision with another car, he turned into his lane and charged at me once again. He was going from one lane to the other, trying any way he could to kill me. I got out of the lane and tried to go down the road, but he accelerated his car at full speed and was only inches away from running me over. I fell to the ground, terrified. The man still wouldn't get out of his car. He wanted to try to attack me one more time. I quickly got on my motorcycle and walked along the road through an area where he could not reach me with his car. As I went along, I could see how the psychopath left the car to chase me, even though he had no way of catching me. I quickly arrived at the police station and showed them the tape of what happened as proof that he had tried to kill me, taking advantage of the fact that his face was on the tape. The police told me they would do everything they could to catch him, but they didn't have to. The man turned himself in the next day. Do you know why he did it? Because a few hours earlier, he had murdered Sophia. I never heard from that man again, but I didn't need to. I had known Sophia very little, but I knew there was something special between us, and that man just took it away. Today, I wish I could find him and make him pay.
He's in
Make
jail.
him pay for what he tried to do to me, but especially for what he did to that poor girl.
That's so...
I don't know if there is a lesson to be learned from this story. Sometimes people are just mean, and there is nothing you can do about it. The only thing I can recommend is to take care of your loved ones. And if you encounter any of these psychopaths, seek help. And also try to help those who are being bullied.
Did you being followed? Everywhere. Was it play about?
Being a firefighter, I'm sure you can imagine that I'm exposed to all sorts of horrors, and you're right to assume so. It's true. When you've spent enough time risking your life to save others, you've inevitably seen things that no one else has. Whether it's saving lives as a doctor, protecting people as a police officer, or rescuing people as a firefighter, among many other professions. But some things just happen when you least expect them, and that happened to me. I never imagined that in a simple visit to my sister, I would live the worst situation of my life. I'll get straight to the point. Tori and I were somewhat estranged for much of our adulthood. When our parents had a fight, she decided to stay with my mother and me with my father, something quite typical in separations. Even so, we continued to see each other, but when we grew up, we each went our separate ways. I met my wife and we left town for a fresh start, while my sister left for a job opportunity. We both tried to keep in touch, but as time went on, that got lost until we just stopped talking. Several years later, I decided to reconnect with my sister. My wife had only seen her a few times, and since we had decided to start a family a few days earlier, I thought my sister and I should work on our relationship. When I called Tori, she was a little hesitant to see us. She wasn't the type of person who would turn down visitors, which I thought was pretty strange. I mean, time may have changed her, but she was always the type of person who would never refuse to see her brother. After asking her if something was wrong, she flatly denied it and told me that she and her husband would be happy to see me. As her brother, it was easy to see that she was lying, but at least I could see if something was wrong with him by being with her. The drive to Tori's house was long and quite demanding.
You ain't never met her
After
husband?
calculating the route, my wife and I assumed that we would arrive in a few hours, but we didn't take into account that the terrain would be so rocky and with so many detours. I was already surprised that Tori lived in the middle of nowhere since she was always a city girl, but who knows? Life may have changed her more than I thought. Once we arrived at her house, she and her husband greeted us with a big smile. They both seemed very happy to see us. Her husband was Ernie. To tell you the truth, I only met him 2 or 3 times, but I guess I liked him. Too calm and friendly for my taste. I thought he was going to calm Tori down too much, but as long as they were getting along, I shouldn't interfere in his decisions. As soon as we walked in, I noticed that Tori and her husband's appearance was a little deteriorated. Tori looked tired. like she was dealing with a lot at the same time. I tried to pull her away and ask her if everything was okay, but she denied everything, telling me she was just tired. We spent the night and ate together with my sister and the couple. Everything was fine, it was a very fun and relaxed dinner, but the weird thing happened later. We were about to go back, but a heavy storm came up and driving back was just too dangerous. We told Tori to stay over and she was very worried, suspiciously worried. Seeing that she had no choice but to let us sleep over, she separated me and my wife while Ernie prepared the mattresses. She told me that if we heard Ernie during the night to ignore him, as he was a sleepwalker and his dreams could be a bit strange. We both laughed, wondering why Tori would make such a fuss just because Ernie was a sleepwalker. In between laughs, I couldn't help but notice that Tori wasn't laughing.
Exactly, y'all over here at Kiki.
We stayed up playing cards for the rest of the night, and when it was time for bed, Tori and Ernie went to their room, and my wife and I stayed in the dining room. The mattresses were quite comfortable and reminded us of our teenage years, sleeping on mattresses when visiting friends. The minutes passed and I finally fell asleep, until a few hours later, something woke me up.
But why me? Can't you leave me alone for a day? Can't you see we have visitors?
Oh, but that's even better. I like to make new friends. Hey.
They're off limits.
Watch the way you talk to me. You don't want to wake up with a woman's head in your bed. Was this conversation real? For a moment I thought I was dreaming, but that was not possible. It all felt too real. After watching them for a second, I realized one thing. There weren't two people chatting. The one talking was Ernie, but with two different voices.
Oh, God!
Stealthily, I grabbed my cell phone to record what was happening. At that moment, I couldn't help but remember my sister's warning about Ernie, but this wasn't sleepwalking. His eyes were open, both voices were different, and his expressions... Their expressions changed completely every time one of the two voices took over. As I listened, Ernie said something that caught my attention. He was complaining about the other voice, saying that he wanted it to leave his body. He said he was possessed. I tried to alert my wife, but when I turned back in the direction of the kitchen, Ernie was standing there, staring at me with a knife in his hand. He looked sad, on the verge of tears. Oh no. Now I won't have a choice. Ernie? Put that down. You have a choice. You always have a choice. Let's get up and go talk to Tori. You don't understand. Now that you've seen me, you won't leave me alone until I kill you. He's holding Tori hostage. From one second to the next, all of Ernie's easy expressions changed. His face crumpled. He didn't look the same anymore.
You gotta beat his ass
Oh, you
down.
little pig. You think Tori is going to help you after you abandon her like you did? Ernie? I'll do your son a favor. I'll kill him now so he'll never be born. We have a very special place in hell for people like you. Ernie lunged brutally at me with his knife and pinned me against the wall. I tried to stop him, but he had a lot of strength. The strength seemed even superhuman. It didn't make any kind of sense that Ernie was able to hold me against the wall. Before he could stick the knife in me, I managed to push him off and throw him a few feet back. My wife and I took the opportunity to run to Tori's room, who was waiting for us in terror. As soon as we entered, we closed the door and began to feel Ernie's pounding from the other side. Tori, give them to me! I'll kill you like I killed them! Tori, what's wrong? This isn't sleepwalking. What's wrong with Ernie?
He's possessed, okay? Possessed? That man is not possessed. There's a demon inside him. He comes out all the time at night. Ernie can't do anything. We just have to control him. That's why we went so far. He's happy torturing me alone. I couldn't let him hurt anyone else. Tori, listen to me.
He needs to put his ass in jail.
I deal with this kind of people all the time at the hospital. Ernie is not possessed. He has multiple personality disorder. He thinks he's possessed. You understand? You don't understand. He has superhuman strength. His personality, his mannerisms, everything changes.
Please run away. This door won't hold much longer. The demon will catch up with you.
Don't listen to him, Tori. All these things you're telling me are common in people with these disorders.
And then he gonna break down that door.
Run to the car.
And beat y'all ass.
At that moment, my wife let go of the door before
Why
it broke.
would you get left behind?
Kick,
He already beat
the door
you up
down.
in the
Without
kitchen.
waiting a second, I threw myself at him. My wife and sister ran to the car while I was left to fight with Ernie. The man had a devilish look on his face. He was enjoying every second of what was happening.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but he got beat up in the kitchen.
Who was dominating the fight. Ernie grabbed his knife from the floor and started trying to press it against my chest. He had too much strength. He felt he was going to succeed. I was losing the battle. The moment I felt the edge of the knife in my chest, I experienced that feeling that everyone sees before they die. My whole life flashed before my eyes. Every moment with Tori, with my wife, with the other firefighters. This was the end. Suddenly, my wife hit Ernie from behind with a flower pot. Ernie was...
You see, like I said, I'm not trying to be mean. I just knew he wasn't winning the fight. I did. I'm sorry.
knocked out and confused.
He got
What
beat
happened?
up in the kitchen.
Did the demon leave?
Knock him unconscious.
But...
He doesn't have multiple personality disorder. He's faking. Attack him now.
At that moment, Ernie lunged to attack me, but I managed to hit him hard in the face. His head hit the
That's your
wall and
wife?
he was knocked unconscious. We called the police immediately. Although they were delayed because of the distance, they arrived because the rain had calmed down. During that time, my wife explained everything to me. She works with patients in a psychiatric hospital and she sees people with multiple personality disorders all the time. This man was not one of them. He clearly wasn't possessed by the devil or anything like that, but the fact that the man kicked in the door while manifesting as Ernie was impossible since multiple personality disorder causes the patient to not remember anything that happens when his other personality takes over. Time proved my wife right. After the man underwent psychological test for attempted murder, everyone agreed on one thing. This man was acting out all along. The Ernie that Tori fell in love with didn't really exist. Ernie was a sadist who enjoyed torturing my sister every second he could, confining her and making her think he was possessed. The shock to Tori was too strong. Today, she still cannot recover or trust anyone.
I wouldn't
Healing
either.
for her will be a long and complicated process, but this time, I will be a better brother, and I will stay by her side for whatever she needs me for.
No, I don't want that thing. I just want to be my family. My emotions be my ears. Why? Because you're the one. Leave me alone, man. Come on, in the chair. Leave me alone, that's all. No.
Okay, that's crazy because that sounds a little like he's wicked. That there sounds a little, Since I'm just back, should I do another? I should, right? Let's do one more. One more SSG because I'm home. 2 psychologists. Let's do the last one. As always, go over to our Stolen Cousins page. You know how we do. Go to SSG. Stay there. You can watch them without me over there. You don't have to hear me pausing and playing. You don't have to deal with none of that over there. Over here, that's what I do. You have to deal with that. I'm sorry. Mwah.
This story is based on the writings of the early psychologist of Peter Kürten, known as the Vampire of Dusseldorf. Kürten was a serial killer who terrorized the city of Dusseldorf in the 1920s. His sadistic crimes and his habit of drinking the blood of his victims made him notorious. After his capture in
That sounds
1930, he
insane.
confessed to numerous murders, describing his acts coldly.
He looked like a vampire. He don't look like a vampire. Like, he looked like someone that would do some bad shit. Like you could see it. You could see it in the ears and that nose and that right there, them lips like that. He looked like
His
he
case
drank
was
blood.
studied extensively by psychiatrist Carl Berg, who published a detailed criminal and psychological profile of Kürten. Executed in 1931, Kürten remains one of the most disturbing serial killers in history. His last words were, "Tell me, after my head is chopped off, will I still be able to hear, at least for a moment, the sound
No.
of my own blood gushing from the stump of my neck? That would be the pleasure to end all pleasures." My name is John Patterson, and I'm a psychologist specializing in personality disorders. I've always had a penchant for difficult cases, the patients that others reject. So when I got the call to treat a man named Peter Kürten, I didn't hesitate to accept. For me, it was just another job. At that time, I had no idea of Peter's nature, nor that he would later become known as the Vampire of Dusseldorf.
He tried to
The
get
first
you?
day I saw him, Curtin arrived at my office on a rainy afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
He had an unsettling presence, but at the time, I just thought he was another patient with deep problems. He introduced himself in a soft, almost shy voice and told me about his anger issues and dark thoughts. He seemed to be a person who was genuinely looking for help. From the first session, I noticed something strange in his eyes, a kind of coldness that worried me. He talked about childhood problems and highly traumatic situations with complete indifference. These were clearly quite common psychopathic behaviors. Noting this trait in particular, we talked about his childhood, his relationships, and his fears.
He looked
Peter responded with surprising honesty, but there was always something calculated in his responses, as if he was trying to condition my assessment of him. Peter was trying to condition and shape his image to me so that I could give that image to him in order to make him feel good about himself. As you can see, these behaviors were quite normal. However, the tension in our sessions began to grow. When he got carried away and forgot to put up that facade every time he saw me, Peter would describe his violent fantasies with a chilling calmness, detailing what he would like to do to other people. I tried to maintain my professional composure, but each session became more disturbing. One day, after several uncomfortable sessions, Peter surprised me with a personal question. "John, what makes you happy?" The question caught me off guard, but I took a moment to respond. "It makes me happy to help my patients find peace and balance in their lives."
I bet.
"And what makes you unhappy?" I felt a knot in my stomach. I didn't know where he was going with that question, but I had an idea. "I don't know, and I can't know how you feel, Peter, but I can assure you of one thing. We all have difficult times. It's how we handle them that's important. But you, John, what scares you? What makes you feel vulnerable?" "It's not relevant to our sessions, Peter. We're
Don't
here
tell
to
him,
talk about
John.
you."
He was trying to get you.
But I think it's very relevant.
It's not.
Relevant how? Psychology is very interesting. I always liked it, but the role of the psychologist is what entertains me the most. I calmed down a bit and relaxed. John could ask whatever he wanted about me, it would only speak more about him. If this was what it took to get him to open up, maybe indulging him was not a bad idea. "And what would my role be?" You say you do this to help people. And how does that make you feel? You put yourself in the role of the martyr, the hero, but it's really a power struggle. You love to be the one who dominates the conversation. You're a weak, sad, lonely man. You've never married, you've never been in a
Alright, John.
couple, you don't
Relax.
have children, and your friends ignore you.
Don't let him get to you.
Wait, how do you know that? This is the only place where you are powerful. The only place where you can be a man. That's what you tell yourself, right?
trying to come after
Don't
you.
your parents talk to you because you're not man enough, John?
Don't let him
Okay,
get to you,
this has
John.
gone
He's
far
trying
enough.
to get crazy.
Did they ever question you that you're not a real doctor? They don't believe in psychology, do they? Peter, stop. You've gone too far. You have to go. I've been thinking, John, what would be left of you if I took that power away? What do you mean? My voice of courage and anger was gone. I suddenly felt a knot in my stomach. I'd lost all power in this conversation.
You gotta
I
relax.
felt tiny.
You ain't
You
listening.
have told me that I must control my instincts, that I must turn off that voice in my head, ignore those primitive desires I feel. But why do I have to? Why can't I just be happy being myself? Peter,
Because
please,
you're a killer,
this,
sir.
This won't do you any good. You need help.
You gotta
I
relax.
struggled to breathe as I
Trying to
felt
beat your
my
ass
strength
up in there.
leave me. Peter grabbed me by the neck and pinned me against the wall. With one hand, he had managed to immobilize me completely, while with the other, he pulled a small knife
Where'd he
from
get
his
the
pocket.
knife from?
It seems to me that you are the one who needs help. I felt the coldness of the metal on my cheek as he slid
Oh.
the knife gently, barely cutting the skin. The pain was intense, but the terror of being completely at his mercy was worse. I could see the pleasure in his eyes as he tortured me, enjoying every second of this moment.
'Cause,
You
like,
know what I love most about this? It's seeing the fear in your eyes, knowing that your life is in my hands. Now I am the one with the power.
John, if you
Don't you feel
wait,
helpless?
he was
Don't
just
you
talking
feel
about
like
your
you
mama
can't
and
do
daddy.
anything? The office door was locked, and I knew no one would come to help me. I was alone with this monster, and he knew it. The knife moved from my cheek to my neck, and I felt the pressure build. The psychologist makes patients talk. The patients bare their souls to the psychologist. They are helpless, and their
Why is the
lives
door
are in
locked?
your hands.
Y'all shouldn't be locked
How
up
does
in there
it feel
together.
to be helpless, John? That's how your patients feel when you talk to them.
I
With a
don't think
razor
so.
to the neck, against the wall. Slowly, he made a small incision in my neck, just enough so that the pain was very great, but not a mortal wound. I thought about screaming, but I was afraid to do it. What if he killed me for it? How long would Peter have since someone in the back tried to break down the door?
Yo, they're just
With a
being
psychotic
quiet,
look,
so they
Peter
gonna
raised
have
the
as
knife,
long as they
preparing
want.
for a deeper blow. I closed my eyes, expecting the worst. But instead of feeling the blade in my flesh, I heard his laughter. I opened my eyes and saw him looking at me in a friendly way, still laughing. Did you really think I would kill you, John?
That's crazy.
It was just a little joke. You're my psychologist, and I like you. What kind of nutcase kills his psychologist?
That's crazy.
He got up and put the knife away, leaving me on the floor, panting and shaking. This has been fun, John, but I don't need your services anymore. You've been a great help, really. I'm eternally grateful to you. I stood there, shaking and crying, unable to fully comprehend what had happened. Meanwhile, Peter simply grabbed his things and left, leaving me a generous tip on the table and waving to me as he used my key to unlock the door and leave.
That's
As soon as
crazy.
he left, I frantically stood up and called the police. I told them what had happened. I told them that this man was very dangerous, that he was beyond good and evil, and that if they didn't stop him, he would kill someone. The police looked for him, but not that
Said
much.
all
And
that.
just like that, I never saw Peter again. A few months passed without me hearing from him until one night, while I was watching the news, his face appeared in the media. He had been arrested by the police and was now being evaluated by another psychologist, Dr. Carl Berg. I couldn't help but feel a mixture of relief and concern. Relief because it was no longer my responsibility, and concern because I knew that Berg had no idea what was in store for him. Peter Curtin had been arrested for brutally murdering many women and children. People
you
gave him a
asshole, they're
nickname
just
that would go down
smiling.
in history, the Vampire of Dusseldorf. I could not help feeling sorry for Carl Berg. Possibly he thought he could save Peter. True evil cannot be contained, and he was the embodiment of that evil. A few years later, he was executed. When I heard his last words, I remembered the last time I saw him and started to cry with terror. It was as if in a few seconds I had gone back to that day. Tell me, after my head is chopped off, will I still be able to hear, at least for a moment, the sound of my own blood gushing from the stump of my neck? That would be the pleasure to end all pleasures. This story is based on John Nathaniel Rosen, an American psychiatrist known for his controversial method of treatment called confrontation therapy, or direct analysis, which he applied to patients with schizophrenia and other severe mental disorders. This approach involved directly and aggressively confronting patients with their fears and traumas in the hope of bringing about a radical change in their behavior. Although some reported positive results, many of his methods were criticized for being excessively harsh and sadistic, often bringing patients to the brink of emotional collapse. Rosen's practices eventually fell into disuse due to ethical concerns and a lack of scientific evidence to support their effectiveness. Hello, I would tell you my name, but that's not what matters. What matters is what I lived that day, and while I'm awake, I'm afraid that fear will never let me live. I will tell you from the beginning. Some time ago, I decided to seek help for my anxiety and depression problems. I was recommended to Dr. John Rosen, a therapist known for his unconventional but supposedly effective methods. At the time, Rosen was not yet famous. Soon after, he became known for developing a technique called confrontation therapy, which claimed that by confronting trauma directly and brutally, a faster and more effective cure could be achieved. I must tell you that although he did not say it, I was one of his first patients to try this therapy, but in a much more experimental and cruel phase. From the start, his office had a strange atmosphere. The office was full of old books and dark wood furniture that gave an oppressive feeling. I had been to other psychologists before, and I knew their therapy was less friendly. At the time I saw the room, I thought I might have made a mistake. Dr. Rosen, a man in his 50s, greeted me with a cold, forced smile and told me that he didn't usually have patients, but from what our mutual friend had told him, I was going to be perfect for a miraculous new therapy he was developing. Our first session was awkward. He asked me very personal questions, delving into my childhood and the darker parts of my life with an intensity I had never experienced before. I felt exposed, but he assured me that this direct approach was necessary for my recovery. As the sessions progressed, his methods became more heavy. He focused a lot on the instances of violence I suffered as a child with my father, but from a much more cruel approach. He would give my father a reason to beat me, and since I knew that this was surely part of the experiment, I didn't say anything to him. One day, the worst of all, I arrived at the office and noticed something different.
How's he giving your
The
daddy
door was
reasons
locked
at
and I had
your-
to wait in the hallway for almost an hour before Rosen let me in. When he finally did, he led me to a room at the back of the office that I had not seen before. The room was dimly lit and empty, except for a chair in the center and a table with various objects that I couldn't quite make out in the gloom. He asked me to sit down and, without saying a word, began to tie me to the chair with leather straps. My heart began to beat faster. I asked him what he was doing, but he didn't answer. He just looked at me with that same cold smile. Today, we are going deeper than ever. It is necessary for your progress. Panicking, I tried to free myself, but the straps were too tight. I felt a surge of panic as he turned on a tape recorder and began asking questions about my worst fears and traumas. Every time I tried to dodge a question, he tightened the straps further until my breathing became labored and my skin began to mark. The session became even scarier when he started using some of the objects on the table. First, he pulled out a small scalpel and held it in front of my eyes. I want you to concentrate on this object. I want you to feel every painful memory as if it were being carved into your mind. Okay, what do I have to do? Without warning, the doctor pressed the scalpel against my arm. It wasn't a deep cut, but the pain was sharp and real. I screamed and tried to pull free, but I was held tight. Rosen showed no reaction to my screams. He just continued with his questions. The minutes passed very slowly. I lost track of time as he continued his interrogation, alternating between questions and small physical tortures. Each time I refused to answer or tried to resist, the pain intensified. My mind was fragmenting between physical pain and mental confusion. I didn't know how much more I could take. Finally, after what seemed like days, Rosen stopped. He stared at me and said, I feel you are not cooperating as you should. Do you want to stay sick? Are you trying to make a fool out of me? No, I just don't want to be a part of this. Let me go, please. My whole body hurts. I feel very sick. This is not helping me.
It's not.
Without answering me, the doctor turned off the light, leaving the room in complete darkness. I heard his footsteps walking away and then the sound of a door closing. I was left alone, tied to the chair, in absolute darkness. Time dragged on unbearably. I couldn't see anything, and the silence amplified my thoughts and fears. I began to hear things, whispers and footsteps, even though I knew no one was there. My mind was playing horrible tricks. I thought for sure I was going crazy. Then, suddenly, I felt something on my shoulder. It was a hand. I flinched and tried to turn my head, but I couldn't see anything. I tried to scream, but my voice was hoarse and weak. Something, or someone, was in the room with me, and I could do nothing to defend myself. Suddenly, I felt a loud bang on my head. Someone was hitting me. The blows quickly turned into something much more. It was a whip? No, a belt. Just as I had experienced in my childhood with my father, Rosen was cruelly beating me with a belt. The pain was unbearable. This man was using all his strength to
He's
hit
supposed to
me.
be your
He was not
therapist?
holding back at all. My back was burning so much that I felt that those blows would break me at any moment. I couldn't stand a second more of pain, but I couldn't do anything to defend myself. I just cried and cried. Once, I came home from school. I stayed there talking to my friends. My dad was furious. As soon as he saw me, he started hitting me with his clenched fists. Stop! Please stop! I hid under the bed and he threw it. When I saw him, he had the belt in his hand and he hit me again and again. My mother did nothing to stop him, just made food pretending I didn't exist. While he was hitting me with the belt, the doctor was reading things about my childhood that I had told him days before. He went on like that for a few minutes. By that time, I had lost all resistance. When he finished, he simply untied me and let me leave the room. Just like that, as if nothing had happened. I was shaking, covered in sweat and blood. I staggered out of his office, unable to believe what I had just experienced. I knew I couldn't leave it like this. I should report it and tell someone what had happened, but at that moment, I just wanted to get away from that place.
You should go there and
I
burn
got
the
home
bitch
and
down.
locked all the doors and windows. I got into the shower, letting the hot water try to wash the horror from my skin, but the images were still in my mind. The doctor's voice telling me what I experienced as a child, the beatings.
As he puts
I
you
couldn't
through
stop
it
crying.
again.
You may judge me. History itself may judge me, but I never did anything to denounce him or try to take revenge on Rosen. That day destroyed me. I have no courage to face anyone. I'm afraid everywhere I go. My depression, anxiety, everything escalated enormously. Now my life has become a daily struggle to keep my sanity. I have stopped seeking professional help, feeling I would run into another therapist like Rosen. I spent my days trying to live a normal life, but the nights are the worst. That's when my mind goes back to that room, to those endless hours of pain and fear. I live with the curtains closed and the doors securely locked. The slightest noise puts me on alert, fearing Rosen will come looking for me again. I have developed obsessive habits, like checking the lock several times before going to bed or checking every corner of my house for hidden cameras. Fear has made me a prisoner in my own life. Dr. John Rosen taught me what true terror is, and although I can't forget it, I try every day not to let that terror define my life. But it is hard, very hard, especially when you find out that Rosen has become a world-renowned man, and that he has only a few detractors. I feel that telling this story will do me good. Maybe it will help me get my life back. I need this to help me. I need to find a meaning to go on living.
Hello, everyone. We are thrilled that you have been enjoying our videos.
We have.
Your support means the world to us.
Make sure
If you've
y'all,
liked what you've seen, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel.
please do.
We would love to hear which one of our videos is your favorite.
Yeah, 1 second, Anna. Okay, guys. I love you guys. Until next time. Bye. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what's your favorite part. That second video, I know it seemed like I wasn't really paying attention. I had a lot going on. I'm sorry. Next video will be way better. I got y'all eyes on you. Us. We're here. I love you. Bye.